Well, it's great to get a few minutes with Shritika, who is the Supplier Operations Analyst at Rivian. Shritika, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, anytime.
So, let's start with a little bit of your background. Tell us about yourself.
I did my bachelor's in India from SRM University, and I'm actually a computer science graduate. And I just got into bachelor's having no idea about what computer science engineering is. I was just like following the group. And then after my graduation, I decided I'm never going into this field because I just knew coding was not my cup of tea and something that I cannot do. So I randomly joined a job in Amazon and just chilling until I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do. So there I was like a device support associate. This included like interacting with a lot of sellers, customers, or carriers, and that's when I started knowing about supply chain. Basically, I was really curious about how you place an order here, and in 2 days it's in your house. I wanted to know more about all the back end processes, and I started reading about supply chain, and I that kept me really interested, and I somehow decided I want to learn more about it and maybe pursue a career in the future in supply chain as well. So then I started applying for my masters in the US, and I was everyone was asking me to take computer science in masters because I come from a computer science bachelor's degree, right? But I was sure I didn't want to go to that field at all. So and I was all like, and supply chain was something that I just knew about it, but I didn't really like dig deep. I
Mm-hmm.
just heard about it here and there. I was not still not even while uh, trying to pursue a master's or applying for master's colleges. I was still not clear about my career path. I just knew I wanted to do higher education
Yeah.
and something I would really like or be passionate about. So I thought, okay, I did my master's in engineering management degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that's a safe space for me. I could either end up as a data analyst or like just figure out things, and it's management,
Yes.
something like maybe partly engineering and partly MBA, something like that
Mm-hmm.
as well. And it was a STEM program too big. I don't think MBA in the US is a STEM program. So I thought, okay, engineering management is a safe space for me. Let me go to the US, start my degree, speak to a lot of seniors or alumni, and then decide my career path. And then, I chose NEU, and I am here doing my degree. And even in the first semester, I was not really clear about my career path.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, but I started speaking to a lot of seniors, attending a lot of alumni meets, and everyone from like diverse background. Like they would come and speak about it, and that's when I was just figuring out what courses to take for the next semester. And at the same time, I had to do a co-op as well. So what I knew, whatever decision I was taking at that point of time would be something, should
Yeah.
be something that would be for the rest of my life, right? So that's when I chose supply chain because I always had interest in that. And yeah, I chose all my courses related to supply chain. And thanks to my Amazon experience, I got a co-op in Wayfair. I think that was one of my biggest achievements because whatever interviews I got was all thanks to my co-op experience.
Yes.
When I got a co-op in Wayfair, I started working. I was also in the supplier operations team in Wayfair actually, and that was one of that gave me brownie points for getting a job in retail.
Awesome. That's
So
phenomenal.
yeah, even in Wayfair, I really learned a lot with supply chain on what are the tools we use and how to go about it. A proper office background, like it's very different from what we do in India. Here, it's really different. Maybe the interview process or the work culture, everything. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got an exposure to about it, and then yeah,
That's phenomenal. Yeah.
that's
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I think one of the insights that you just shared, right? Like the co-op experience helped you tremendously when you're searching for full time. That is so
yeah.
important. Anyone like trying to come to the US for bachelor's or master's, first thing is try to get an internship or co-op as soon as possible because that experience is going to help you tremendously when you try to search for full time position. That was like
I
a great thing.
totally
Yeah.
agree. Like even I don't know if in my experience, in my personal experience, what happened was most of the companies that were interviewing me, they didn't care about my Indian experience.
Yes.
They were only interested in my co-op. I don't know if it's the same case with everyone. For me, it wasn't. Then
Yes.
Like most of my interview questions or anything, they were only interested in my co-op experience with Wayfair.
Yeah, got it. So let's talk about the timing of beginning a job search. You came to the US, you're pursuing your master's, and when you're thinking about the full time opportunity, when did you actually start searching for the full time job opportunities?
So in I was supposed to graduate in December of 2020,
Mhm.
and I started looking for jobs around not September, I'd say October.
October 2020.
Because
Got it.
by the time I prepared my resume, and it was like September, it took a lot of time to make my resume,
Got it.
and I think that is the key for any of us. And then from October I started looking for jobs, but even all the 3 months, October, November, December, until I graduated, I was obviously busy with my courses as well, so I couldn't give as much time to coursework or job search.
Yes.
But I would still apply, try to give more time. And I think the until I figured out what is the right way to apply, it was December 2020. I just had like 2 to 3 calls from jobs, though I applied for a lot of companies.
Got it. So you started your job search in October, September 2020, and you were supposed to graduate in December 2020. Now,
Yeah.
if you were to look back now, do you think you had enough time when it came to job search, or would you have changed the timing of beginning a job search? Would you have started earlier, or was time enough for you?
I as I think how I would say is, for me, because my EAD was delayed, I got lucky.
Yeah.
Because a lot of companies would be interested in, for example, my first call was from Chewy.
Hmm.
It was a role I was really interested in, but it was in October when I just started applying. But they were not ready to
Yes.
wait for me, because I'm graduating in December, and by the time I receive my EAD, it would be February, right?
Hmm.
So they were like, "There's no way we can wait for you, but please give us a call back once you have an EAD on hand."
Gotcha.
So my yeah, so I think big company, if you are aiming for big companies like Amazon or Google or Microsoft, I think these companies are willing to wait for you until you
Okay.
get your EAD. So
That's
I would say,
huh.
if we can focus on all these big companies which are willing to wait for you prior, and right when you are done with your get to receive your EAD, like maybe 1 month or 1.5 months to your EAD, that's when you can focus on all the other companies
Wow, that's
who
a
don't
phenomenal
wait.
insight. That's a great insight. So all the big companies are willing to wait, and so you can start applying for those companies, or at least start preparing for those companies early on, not just like one semester prior to your graduation, but maybe early on. But when it comes to like companies that are relatively smaller, you want to make sure that you're applying right on that short time that you're going to graduate, and then because they need to fill that position as soon as possible. They cannot necessarily
Yeah.
wait as these big companies can. That's a great
Because
insight.
yeah, a lot of companies were rejecting me because either they didn't want to wait or because of my immigration status. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's talk about the approach for searching for jobs. How did you initially approach your job search?
We had this course called the co-op course, where they would train us in job search as well as co-op search.
Hmm.
So they had given us a very nice insights, and we actually had to submit our resume. I think most of the colleges have that too. If they would personally verify, like check our resume, give us feedback, make sure we prepare for our interviews, give mock interview sessions, take care of get us used to LinkedIn networking and all these things. So our college really provided us all the resources regarding that, and I also had amazing friends around me or family around me who have been in this path earlier, and they would give me a right, like different update kind of approaches, so I would try everything. So initially what I did was, like I didn't everyone would say just network, but I really didn't know what networking was.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have this doubt too,
Yes.
because yeah, networking is just like, okay, you go and talk, and how is that gonna help you with a job? But I think LinkedIn plays a really big part in it. For me, every interview call I received was either through reference or LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Yeah, nothing was direct. So yeah, I think I spent in the initial days when I started applying, I would just list out a bunch. Like I think everyone maintains an Excel sheet with company names, a role, and the resume they submitted it for. And yeah, I would just list out in the night. I would list out all the companies who have which have openings, and then the next day I would just go like on LinkedIn. I would Google 10 like not on LinkedIn search. I just try to find 10 to 15 people from that company in supply chain, some HR, some directors, or some with the same role, and just send them a LinkedIn request.
Yes.
And as soon as this was my first approach, and which also didn't give me a lot of help actually, but with little, and then they would accept the connection, and then I would try to reach out to them, give me a little intro. Hey, this is Shrutika. I am graduating soon. I'm interested in this, and put my resume.
Yeah.
I would do this all October through December. I did the same thing. I did not get a lot of responses.
Got it. So that was your initial approach. Now, looking back, what would you have done differently?
I actually did change my approach in the next approach. I mean, I didn't understand if it was a problem with my resume or if it was the way I was reaching out to people. I had no clue.
Yeah.
Because I was just applying, reaching out to people, and I wasn't getting responses. Was only getting rejections and everything. So I started Googling a lot about how to do my job search, how do I connect on LinkedIn and all. And then I had one of my friends who told me he just got a job too, and he was telling me what he did. He used to send connection requests with little introduction about himself. Hi, I am a so I started doing that too, and that really helped. A lot of people would be more interested in having a conversation if you attach a introductory note, add a note when you're sending a connection. I think that was a conversation starter for me with a lot of people. I would say, hi, this is Shrutika. I'm a supply chain enthusiast. I really like your profile. I'm looking for my job search. I would like to connect with you. And a lot of people would be interested, and I got a lot of calls through that. And I realized that HRs, more than HRs, it's the higher level people like directors or senior managers would be more into conversation with you. And I think if they really like our resume, they are forward to the right department, and coming from a higher official, they always take it seriously.
Yeah.
So I received a lot of calls only because I was trying to contact with, making a conversation with directors or senior managers, etc.
Absolutely, yeah.
And another approach I did was I would go to the about section on. I didn't know this all 3 months. Then only when I was Googling, I found this. I would go to the about section on their LinkedIn account and find their email address and send the email about a little bit of introduction to me and how I'm suitable to the role I'm interested in that company, and send my resume along.
Phenomenal.
And that way also a lot of HRs replied through that, and they would forward it to the correct HR, and things ramped up pretty quickly because of that.
Nice. So what did you do to get interviews from the companies that you're applying for?
I would change my resume not lie about it, but try to manipulate the sentences in trying to match the work I did to the job requirements. I would edit my resume based on every job I'm applying for. Like each company or each role had a separate. I would not change it entirely, but for example, SharePoint and Google Excel sheets are the same.
Yes.
So I just add SharePoint because a lot of companies have SharePoint as a requirement.
Yes.
So all these things are something that we can learn in one day before the interview, or just learn the beat. It's not a new coding language. It's a really manageable tool. So I would always try to include all the tools which are manageable in my resume, try to edit my resume according to the job requirements. And I think our resume should be very apt with the job requirement. That is one of the keys. It's okay. We can spend as much time as possible on resume because that is like our weapon in this job search.
Absolutely. So now looking back, would you have done something different in order to actually get interviews?
Getting interviews, I would sometimes I wouldn't wait for a referral link. I used to wait a lot of time for referral link. By the time someone responds and then gives you a referral link, it's like a lot of positions would be removed from the portal.
Yes.
So I think I would have just applied directly because I felt after a certain point of time, I felt like a referral link is not as helpful.
Yes.
I would just try to catch hold of someone on LinkedIn who could push my resume. Like as I told you, senior uh, people or like senior working, like senior officials or HRs who can.
Got it. Phenomenal. So let's talk about preparing for interviews. How did you prepare for the interview that you got?
So okay, I would use Glassdoor, etc. So I think a lot of people post their experiences on these websites. And for example, I would just Google Rivian HR round
Yes.
questions. So Glassdoor, a lot of people commenting, writing their questions, and I think behavioral question, because I'm in supply chain. We only have the behavioral questions round. So I once I started getting calls, I knew I had to start preparing for interviews, not just leave it to one day before the interview. So I would. My college had also given me a list of behavioral questions that we need to prepare. So I would have like 3 to 4 answers for each question, and instead of like I would try talking to myself to get more confident and be very and use a star method.
Yes.
That is such a key. So yeah, I would frame the whole. I have like a complete book. I think it's somewhere here. Yeah, with all my answers and questions, and
Wow.
each question had like 3 to 4 answers. Yeah, and I think once we start giving interviews, we don't even have to prepare.
So now, if you were to look back, would you have changed your approach when it came to preparing for interviews?
I used to feel very nervous before the interviews. I think that kind of impacted my performance as well because, as I told you, in the start, I wouldn't like my first 3 interviews were really bad. It was Amazon, Chewy, and Beyond Meat. They were really bad because I didn't do a lot of prep. I would just like go through it's just behavioral question. I would think I don't have to frame the answer. Like I don't have to be prepared. I can just tell then and there. That was a really bad step, and I didn't practice. Tell me about yourself. All the basic things because
Yes.
there's some key questions I think that really make an impact. I didn't because maybe I was overconfident. But I thought it's easy. It's behavioral. We just have to make a conversation. And then once I had rejects from all the first 3 companies I interviewed for, I was like, no, I have to prepare. So that's when I started maintaining a book, making sure I write everything, talking to myself, making a lot of my friends around ask me questions, give me feedback, take feedback from many people. That really helped me.
Got it. So let's
Yeah.
pivot towards some company specific questions. Now, how did you come across your specific role of Supplier Operations Analyst at Rivian?
Actually, this is a really interesting story. One of my friends, she randomly added me on a WhatsApp group, some US tech careers WhatsApp group, and the first link I clicked on was this one, the Supplier Operations Analyst role for Rivian. And when I read the job, actually, this was my favorite job I applied for. Now, not that I used to tell this even before I got a job, because it was exactly what I did in Wayfair, and I was really confident. I was really like this job role actually excited me a lot. So, and it was, and yeah, I took a screenshot of the HR. I tried emailing the HR, but I did not get any response. So I randomly sent connection requests to 15 people from Rivian, and I would target people who just got a job as well because they are very empathetic towards our current situation. And one guy, he really helped me. The guy who referred me, he sent me a referral link, and he would tell me what. And I applied, and through the I got an immediate email from the HR
Got it.
saying he wants to schedule time.
Wow. So you kind of answered like a bunch of questions that I had in line. So I think the follow up question on that one was like, how did you actually get the interview for the role at Rivian? And you mentioned that you connected with 15 people on LinkedIn and you tried to reach out to folks who were relatively new to the company, who newly joined the company, and then one person like actually helped you a lot with the referrals, and then through that referral you were able to your resume was able to reach to the HR, and then the HR reached out to you for the first interview round. And then so like what was the interview process like how many interviews, and after your first HR round, I guess, how did that look?
So the HR round, the HR didn't like. He just asked me about the tools I knew, and he was very confident, like very positive about the whole interview. Like even he just told me that he's gonna submit my resume to the hiring manager and let me know in a week. And yeah, he had only immigration questions for me, and Rivian did offer immigration, so it was fine. And then I got a follow in a week. I think in a week, yeah, in a week he emailed me telling that the hiring manager would want to interview me, and then the person who referred me, he would tell me what to prepare for the interview and everything. So yeah, it was mostly about 70% the hiring manager as well as the other manager in the same team. They interviewed me together, and it was 70% about my projects. I only wayfared because it was the same role, right?
Yes.
So 70% it was my resume, and 30% basic behavioral questions.
Gotcha.
And yeah, and then again in a week I got a yes from them, and it was a final round. And the final round of Rivian was really different from others, I would say. It didn't feel like it was an interview. It was more like an interaction. And even through the interview, every interviewer kept telling me that you have to like us as much as we have to like you.
Yes.
So that was really nice. They were telling about them, their work culture, and how I would prefer. They were really open about everything. And they were very friendly. It was more like an interaction, I would say. So I had my interview was from 11 to 5, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. with 6 small breaks in between, but it wasn't tiring at all because it was just a friendly conversation with so many people.
Oh wow! So the the third interview round, was that a panel interview, like where you were meeting like one-on-one with different team members and just having interactions? Was it like that?
It wasn't. I think some people in Rivian. Some people have all the team interviewing at once, and some I did not have that. I had I had 5 rounds with one person each, the director or the sister team's manager.
Yes.
Yeah, someone.
That's
with like 6-7 people interviewed me in 5 rounds.
Wow, that's great. So, any last piece of advice to any international student who is listening to this and who is seeking a full-time opportunity in the US?
For a full time, I think you need a lot of patience. Try to get to know a lot of people. Try to contact a lot of people. A lot of people are actually very helpful. It's always the way we approach should be different. And yeah, I think connections will always help you. Because in my personal experience, it was only the connections that helped me with interviews, getting to the interviews. And be prepared for the interviews. Don't keep it for the last minute. And you need a lot of patience and a little bit of luck. I think everyone is always gonna get one job. It's always the right job, right time. Everything has to match, but everyone will get a job for sure.
Awesome. That's great. Shritika, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.